get to the playing hall. I think Magnus was late in one game in the rapids too, and he was a little frustrated. It seemed like maybe it wasn't his fault, that maybe he had difficulties getting into the playing hall. But here he goes, adjusting all of his pieces, by the way, before playing one e4 with a little flourish.
He was against Ivan Saric in the last round.
And just to inform our audience, what we're going to attempt to do is going to focus on one game per round. If the game turns out to be a dud, we have a plan B. We'll go to that game very quickly. But for the moment, Miro, it has to be this game. I mean, Jorden leading the tournament, playing against the world champion. Shall I ask any predictions? Well, it happened very quickly already, this Berlin.
Yeah. Predictions? No.
Predictions for... I meant the opening, but it happened so fast. You didn't even have a chance to say, oh, it will be the d3, bishop takes c6, Berlin, with h2, h3, h7, h6.
Knight d2, I think, is on the board. He's hinting that he wants to go potentially to c4, try to target the e5 pawn, or b3.
Exactly.
Bishop
d6. Now you have no reason to go to b3, so knight c4, perhaps.
Exactly.
Is the move.
And now we expect castle from the young man. Even though castle with the pawn already on h6, is that dangerous? Does that allow me to go to g4
that's
potentially?
a question. Like short castle, you might run into some sort of g4.
G4, yeah.
You're encouraging it, to say the least.
And the knight on c4 will not exchange for the bishop, but go to e3 and maybe try to jump to f5. So you have to be careful.
Exactly. So knight d7, hinting at the fact that, well, he's just going to wait and match white. As soon as white castles, black castles, maybe the desirable knight b6. You, of course, always have to be watchful that the knight doesn't land on a5, where it's actually more useful.
Yeah, well, there is another route for this knight, that you go to f8, right? And then depending on what white does, sometimes you end up on g6 and then looking at f4 square or even e6, right?
And we see long
so in the vacuum, I would argue that e6 is the best square, right? But of course, you should be watching what white's doing. Yeah.
And what is white doing? White is castling long. Okay. A clear sign that Jorden made the right choice and not
the castle short.
The castle is short and walk into g4. Okay.
I think he's setting up for a long castle as well.
Yeah.
Bishop a6 trying to encourage Magnus to... But
yeah, that's
okay.
One thing, but
that's weird.
Maybe the other thing that he does with bishop a6 is kind of stopping d4 or postponing d4 for quite some time. Yeah.
Knight e3 trying to go to f5.
g7, g6.
Not allowed.
Simply restricting the knight.
Exactly. And
but now this opens up the question, do I have some knight to g4 ideas to soften up the dark squares around the king side?
Yeah, sure, but black has already decided that his king's going to be perfectly safe on the queen side. So a move like knight 8, knight g4, encouraging h5 would be bad news. If the king was there, not so bad news. The king on the other side. Bishop c3. By the way, this bishop on a6 is very annoying. The two breaks in the position are f4 as well as d4.
Right.
And it's going to be very hard to get in d4 with the queen on e2. Very quickly played was knight d2. I must say, to my eyes, the world champion has gotten nothing out of the opening.
Yeah.
Knight c5 and knight to c5, threatening knight a4, with the idea of knight to e6. Looks like black is perfectly, well...
Yeah, he did play it.
Not only equalized, I start to prefer black's position with the two bishops in control over the d4 square.
Okay, so knight c4.
The one thing I would be careful of is that this knight captures with check, right? So whenever the guy tries to sneak, when he tries to sneak it in, fortunately for the moment, the knight on c5
protects
protect the bishop. But it's one of those
perhaps it's time to get out of the way, king b8.
Exactly. I like that
He
move very
decides
much.
against it.
He played instead?
It's,
Did he play a move?
I think he
or-
played
He did play
G5.
him, it's just that we didn't get it registered yet.
No, no way.
No,
F7,
F6.
Yeah.
G5
No, G5 would
off.
not.
That didn't make any sense.
No, F7, F6, shoring up the pawn again. White's breaks are F4 and D4. So anticipation of the break, F6 is refortified. But
Now that you played F6 and your G6 square is a little bit tender, I can potentially go Rook H3, Rook G3, or set up the G4 break and try to
but
focus on the G6 pawn.
he's about to play knight E6. Is
Knight A4
Knight A4, interesting.
is a bit more aggressive than that.
We were not
was
looking at this direction.
not at
right?
all. I'm not a big fan of that. I would love to anchor my knight.
Queen E6, yeah.
A totally different approach by
Seems a
Jordan.
little bit off, right? This knight on
Totally
A4,
different approach.
unless you'd be able to prove tactically that, well, it has a purpose there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just does nothing.
Okay, now, again, I think that you have to prep F4. Looks like Rook F1.
Yeah, Rook F1 doesn't seem to be a bad move.
Well, again, it's like
Rook E1,
Rook
interestingly. So
Queen
maybe you put
F1.
maybe you put rooks in the center and then Queen F1, and then eventually, whenever we play F4, we
Or
play
do
it
you-
with great effect.
Exactly.
The time situation, well, slightly, but only slightly more time for one for rest, right? Well, by the way, I expect some people to lose on time here. You know,
We only saw one loss on time in the whole rapid
event,
event.
And that was actually Magnus.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to say the
Against
world champion
Mamedyarov.
mismanaging his clock. That's a little embarrassing. And here's the opportunity. You've got to play F4.
At some point, you have to go F4. There is no other way.
Exactly, to do something.
yeah,
There he
that's
goes.
what he does.
And I'm not sure that Jordan has positioned his knight.
F5 is a very big
In the best
strategic
way.
threat right now. So
Yes.
you cannot allow
Pawn
F5.
takes, right?
Queen takes, I thought.
Pawn takes.
He captured with the queen. Yeah,
He- I would.
No, I think he took with the pawn.
Well, if he takes with the
I
pawn,
don't know, yeah,
then I was
he
going to
took with the
say, if he takes with the pawn, then F5 is a threat, positionally speaking.
That's the big threat in the position. That's why he played F5.
That black
Jordan.
plays F5, yeah. And
Whoa.
I was thinking of
Whoa, whoa,
suggesting
whoa,
this
whoa,
one.
whoa,
because,
whoa.
yeah, I understand.
First
this-
of all,
Mhm.
you give up the square. Second of all, how do we meet takes and Queen H3
That's a very good question.
or Queen F3? Actually takes and Queen F3.
Perhaps he's not worried about that. Now, for example, if you go Queen to H3, maybe he's going to try to set up an attack on B2 with Queen to
Yeah,
F6.
that's what Magnus does. He captures on F5. So now Knight will find a very good position on E5, you're right, and then Queen F3 or Queen H3 attacking
well,
one of
then,
those weak pawns.
If I'm going to go Knight E5, I'm going to put my Queen on F3 for sure because I'd love to tickle this pawn on C6. So takes Queen F3 with the nice idea.
B3 is Magnus's choice.
B3,
Kicking out the knight
a little
first.
bit surprising, unless he had seen something like forcing, because the knight on A4 was not doing all that much.
No,
Yeah,
I
it
think he
wasn't.
was afraid of Queen to F6 and ideas of
Whoa,
bishop
whoa,
takes
whoa.
knight.
G4, I mean, as I said,
Whoa.
it's something forcing really that he's going for. But can black capture on G4? I would be inclined to try to do that, to be honest, because
Yes.
I feel like if I'll start going back, I might never stop. Right? So at
Well, there-
least to change the game.
I would actually start thinking about knight to E4 in this position.
Knight E4. So that when you, but isn't your knight? No, you're
But you have a
threatening
couple
knight
of
E2
pieces
with a
under
check.
attack.
Yeah, knight E4 might be a very clever move, by the way.
But Knight G4, very surprising move to my eyes. Queen F3 and Knight E5. And by the way, we are told that we already have our first result of this round of Blitz, round one of Blitz, and he likes your idea, Mirov. Wesley So has defeated Shakhriyar Mamydarov, and Wesley entered this round 1 point out of first place, so he's doing his job. And this was what you had in mind, right, Miro? It was just some kind of
Yeah.
a positional compensation for the pawn,
Play
for the
c5,
queen.
open up the light squares,
Yeah,
maybe
but
g3,
I mean, I'm not
g2
sure
at some
if it's
point.
enough from you know, like objectively, but from practical standpoint, you change the character of the game, and this is very important in Blitz, I believe.
And not only that, especially against the world champion, the initiative.
Yeah, the initiative, the fact that now White has to watch out as well for some tricks potentially.
G3, G2 on tap.
Yeah, so
there
knight to
is a
D4.
check.
Bishop to
on-
c3, knight to f3 on the board,
D7.
and now knight to d7.
97, yes.
It's all about
Rook
exchanging
takes.
pieces for Magnus right now.
Yeah, he swaps the rooks.
But he sees he's got a passed H pawn, right?
Ah, yeah, and it was the bishop
Knight
on
takes.
C3.
Wait a minute, are you just completely lost right now?
It might be. It might just be that H6.
Wait
You
a
have to do something with the
Because
g pawn.
G3.
H6, yeah, maybe
No, rook takes
G
F8,
pawn.
H6, G.
H6, rook F7 for now. I mean, what can I do?
He's done.
He has
rook
not
F7,
played,
bishop
he
G7.
did play h6.
Bishop G7, knight D2 check. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Black has some threats, right?
Queen E2 after rook F7.
Queen
I-
E2. So the queen is about to invade unless bishop D5 is bishop D5 is not it.
It doesn't feel like it. Bishop G7,
Now h7 is coming.
and that's a
And
nasty
I don't think you can
move.
stop it, in fact.
King B7. Okay, so
H7?
you're trying to promote the queen, rook G7, another queen, and then where the rook's going.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know, that's a lot of
No,
material.
wait a second, rook G8 and then G3. No, I do not agree with you guys. I mean, it's blitz
But
after all.
what about, so queen to h1 is met by knight to d2, that's a problem.
Yeah, rook H7.
But G3 I take on G8.
So C7 is a weak
No, this is
link,
game over.
right?
Queen takes G8.